Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable.
Oh, yeah.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable.
Banner 18. J. King Game Pickett in the B-Roll.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Jay-Z White in the catalog.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The kids, the legends, the gods.
Still Poddable, still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable.
Oh, yeah.
I just had to go to a bathroom.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the greatest Celtics podcast ever. I'm Jay King from The Athletic, here with Brian Robb from MassLive.com to break down the Celtics schedule release. What a day! Basketball is coming again. It's coming again, B-Rob. Beautiful sport. Action coming soon. A lot to talk about. A lot of games to discuss. We are here for you on the free episode on the CLNS Network, brought to you by Game Time and Prize Picks. Use promo code CLNS to sign up there. If you want to subscribe to our podcast, it is a Monday through Friday. You can do that. Patreon.com/stillpoddable to get all this latest Celtics news, all the best Celtics discussion, Celtics interviews, all that good stuff. Today we got schedule talk. And
I'm here for it, Jay. I'm here for it. And I want you to check your beautiful mic there, Brett, so we get into it here. But the thing I'm most excited about when I see this schedule, Jay, beyond the obviously opening night we knew about October 22nd against the Knicks at TD Garden. But the fact of the matter is the Golden State Warriors and Steve Kerr are coming to town, Jay, on November 6th, just 2 weeks into the year. And that's one that everyone was going to have circled anyway. But to get that one out of the way that quickly, that to me is going to be exciting because I expect that could just be the best crowd of the year period, even including ring night.
Steve Kerr is going to be a hated man now in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that going into the Olympics, but now the crowd is going to let him have it. It's too bad Jason Tatum is not a vindictive guy. It's too bad he's not into stirring up drama, because if he were, and if he were honest about how he probably felt about his DMPs and his limited playing time in the Olympic run, then that would be an even juicier game. But instead, Tatum usually takes the high road, almost always stays drama free, and he probably won't say anything about his personal feelings about Steve Kerr in that whole situation. We'll just kind of have to guess that he's probably a little mad, and who knows, maybe he'll go out and try to have 60.
If he goes nuts in that game, do you expect him to take any type of a jab at Kerr? If they, and even coming off of last season, like with the treatment they gave Jaylen Brown in that game when they didn't even guard him, and the Celtics just ripped apart the Warriors. Like, that was always going to be an intriguing game anyway, but now you factor in the Tatum part of it with the Jaylen aspect of it of last year and him obviously not being on Team USA. That's not a Steve Kerr decision, the roster-wise there, but I'm sure that we'll just pile on there. But that is this like the most anticipated game of the year to you, like on this schedule outside of the ring?
Probably. Yeah. I would say, yeah. No, none of the playoff series were long enough or grueling enough or competitive enough to really create a new rivalry. Like, I don't think there will be a lot of animosity for a Mavericks game, let's say. Even though they met in the finals, it was a quick series. It was not a very competitive series. It's not like those teams were like had bad blood throughout that round. So I think the Steve Kerr storyline is probably the best one. And the wild card to me is, how does Joe Mazzulla handle it?
Yeah.
Like, does he say like Steve Kerr was crazy? Does he say that Tatum should have had tons of minutes? Does he go out of his way to to back Tatum there, or does he just minimize it? I don't know. Joe, he'll probably minimize it, would be my guess, but you never really know with Joe Mazzulla. And then also, like, does Jaylen Brown say so? I think it's more likely that one of the other players says something about Steve Kerr. Maybe Jaylen would be, because Jaylen can be outspoken at times, and he could lump in the way that the Warriors guarded him last season and be like, look, this idiot decided not to guard me at the 3-point arc, and I just lit them up and we won by 9,000 points. And then later in the summer decided Jason Tatum was not worthy of minutes in the Olympics. So yeah, the Warriors Celtics game is the one for me. There's going to be a lot of other games that will be exciting, a lot of other stretches that will be great, but that one, and just to see like all the layers of it.
There's so many.
Does Tatum go out and just gun and just try to prove to Kerr he was a moron? Is he yapping at the bench? That'd be so unlike Jason Tatum, but I think it's also something he's never experienced before, where a coach didn't really have full faith in him and didn't consider him part of the plan. So maybe it'll bring up mad Jason Tatum. I feel like Jaylen Brown unearthed a new side of his personality this past season. After the loss to Miami, he just turned like he was just a psychotic competitor this year. And he's always been tough. He's always been hardworking. He's always been about the right stuff. But this year just took everything to another level. And maybe we'll get a new side of Jason Tatum where he's just vindictive, out to destroy Steve Kerr.
And then Draymond will probably be tripping at Steve Kerr too on the bench.
Draymond,
Tatum's offense.
what an amazing! I still can't believe he just chirps his own coach, his own NBA coach. It's
you need to get the eyes in the ears in the podcasting world, and that's certainly a way to do it. But it is like, I just love the fact, Jay, that this is, because if this game was in January or February, it would be like, okay, time has passed. It would be intriguing, but the fact that it wouldn't be so fresh. But the fact we get it so early in the year, where this is one that everyone's gonna circle outside opening night there, and wounds are still probably fresher for everyone involved. That makes it just great. On the top of the fact, the Warriors coming to town is always a big story, regardless. But yeah, I look forward to Jaylen Brown just saying, taking a backhanded jab at Steve Kerr, saying, Steph Curry led him all these titles and Steve Kerr is just along for the ride or something like that. I look forward to one of those comments coming out.
I need something, because this whole last season was drama free. There was not a single like extracurricular headline that we were able to write about basically the entire year. I would say there was nothing. There was not. It was an incredibly efficient, ruthless run through the NBA by the Celtics, and they had no time for the extra stuff. I don't expect that to change. The personalities they have, including Jason Tatum, one of the most of all Jason Tatum, are just kind of robotic, approach every day the same. Jaylen's one of the ones who's not always like that. He can speak his mind a little bit more than certainly Tatum does. But I need the beef. I need Tatum to go at Steve Kerr. I need Steve Kerr to say a weak explanation for why he benched Jason Tatum in the Olympics. I need someone to chat with Draymond and get his unfiltered thoughts about that and how he thinks it impacted Tatum. It's gonna be beautiful. And also because the Warriors, now that the Celtics have won the title, a rematch against the Warriors doesn't have as much juice as it used to. And also because, the Warriors just aren't the same as they used to be. So we needed that game to to have a little more luster, and now it does, baby.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50. It's just a bonus, a guaranteed bonus. Sign up for Prize Picks. It's a lot of fun, especially with the football season starting off. There's going to be so many different games and for you to pick on, for you to play. You can even make preseason football that more exciting. Will Drake May play more than one series? I don't know if you can actually do that on Prize Picks, but you can do a whole bunch of other Drake May stats or other Patriots. So today, go to Prize Pick, get the Prize Picks app, and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
What else stood out to you about this schedule? Whether it's a game, a stretch, whatever.
Yeah, I think just looking at the early part of the season, Jay, I think this Celtics caught a little bit of a break here because we know Kristaps Porzingis is going to be out through November and probably into December as well. And the Celtics schedule in the first 6 to 8 weeks here, it's just very manageable. It seems like, you have the Knicks on opening night. You have a couple home games against the Bucks and the Warriors and stuff. But by and large, no tough road trips, barely any tough road games, period. And so that, I think, is pretty big potentially in terms of helping them manage life without Porzingis for the first couple months and be where they want to be in the standings, while also not having to lean too heavily on Al and company in the front court. So that the fact that they don't have the long West Coast trip to start the year, in November or December, which they sometimes do have, those come later. I think that should bode well for them. I would think. Is that what's your read on that?
So I'm almost the other way. Like, they showed enough without Porzingis this season, including during the playoffs when they just rolled everybody while he missed most of the playoffs, that I wouldn't be worried if I were them entering the season with a center rotation of Horford, Cornette, Tillman, Nemi. I think they'll be fine in those games. The portion of the season that could get dicey for me is when he comes back. I think it could be tough to reincorporate him. And I think obviously they play a different style when he plays, and not being able to work on that throughout the preseason, not being able to work on that in training camp, not being able to work on that in the early part of the regular season. Once you have to reincorporate the post-ups, once you have to just involve him, he's probably going to be coming off the bench, probably going to be on a minutes restriction when he first comes back. So I think the worst they play, or not necessarily the worst they'll play, but there will be more challenges to bringing Kristaps back, at least initially, than having him gone early in the season. So if I were them, I would have wanted that smooth sailing after he comes back.
I think it's really interesting for you because you're right. Like there will be no worse time on the schedule for him to come back than January, which is just an absolute bloodbath of a month of a schedule with 2 long road trips and pretty much all the Western Conference contenders, being faced on those trips like that.
It's weird to have the 2 long road trips in a month's span.
3 weeks. Like, that's just a brutal, no matter how you slice it, that's brutal. And to have 2 trips like that period in a month, and to have it, you go pretty much like the Central America, middle of the country, Western Conference road trip, and then follow that up with 4 games and 6 nights against the Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, and Mavs. That's just some tough sledding right there. And like you said, if Porzingis is coming back during that stretch, like figuring out how to integrate him while also trying to navigate that will be certainly a challenge to say the least.
Yeah, and certainly like sitting him some nights.
Right.
How they navigate the Horford thing this season is going to be interesting, because this past year, part of it was that, you know, they had Porzingis. Part of it was that they just had, I don't want to call it an easy year because it's hard to be as good as the Celtics were, but they were good enough. They were able to just kind of pace things. But kind of minimizing Al Horford's role, or not like stretching him out too often, I thought was a big part of last season. And just making sure that you don't put too much on his shoulders, which I thought the previous season they had to, and they did when Robert Williams was out. So how do you get Al Horford rest? How much do you play Al Horford when Kristaps is out? How many times do you give him just a night off on back-to-backs? And what do you do when he does? Is it just Cornette starts and Nemi or Tillman come off the bench? Do you play smaller? How does Joe Mazzulla navigate all of that? I don't think it's the worst issue to have. Obviously, they played great basketball without Porzingis. But it's just like, it's going to be like, you have to keep things light on Al Horford. He's only getting older. You need him in the playoffs. He is every single year in the postseason. He is absolutely crucial. And we saw this past postseason just how crucial he is, because you cannot trust Kristaps Porzingis to be on the court for, 2 straight months in the playoffs. You just can't. You cannot trust him to get through that physically the whole way through. When he's out there, he'll help. When he's out there, he'll be great. But if you expect him to play, 25 or 30 games in a 2-month span, I think you'll be disappointed. I think he'll probably deal with something. Even if he plays every game, I think he'll be dealing with something, just because that historically that's how it's been. So just get through that and rest Al as much as he needs it. Be fresh. It's going to be interesting because the expectations of this past season of playing as well as they did, like, you have to live up to that almost. Obviously, you're going to get some benefit of the doubt because you did just win a title and the way you did it. But if you start to struggle, if you start to lose games, it's like, where's last season's magic? And I think managing those expectations and knowing that it probably won't be as easy, it probably won't be as dominant, will be one of the issues Joe Mazzulla has to tackle.
Yeah, there's going to be some form of adversity.
Probably. You would have to guess. You can't have 2 straight seasons.
There's no. They put together another seamless season, but it already is. It's like you already have Porzingis. That's already that's the biggest a bigger absence than they had at all last season. Like, Porzingis is going to miss more games to start the year than, a longer stretch than he had all last year.
Yeah, but I will say, like, the reason we say there was no adversity is because they were just so dominant no matter what happened.
Right.
But it could have been easy to say, like, Kristaps Porzingis went out in the playoffs. That was adversity.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
He went out in the finals. That was adversity, right. But it's just like, we don't look at it that way because they just blitzed everyone anyway.
Right. No, that's a fair point. So, like, when you look at the big man situation, will be one to watch from a standpoint of, like, Cornette had a phenomenal year, and Tillman, they didn't need him much, but he had his moments when he was out there. And even Nemi early in the year, like, everyone was like, holy shit, this guy is coming off a 2-way and giving them serviceable minutes off the bench on these nights when Al and Kristaps were off, or whoever. If one or two of those guys start to fall off, and then that's when things get a little, like, trickier.
Then it's small lineups with Shireman, baby.
Exactly. It's a Shireman time, but I think it seems like Joe just, and this is something with Frey, like, he likes to go, like, they like to lean into big over small, particularly in the regular season. They don't like to play, Tatum at the 5, understandably so. Like, you look at the track record, what's worked for them last year, like, even going double big with with Cornette and Allen, stuff like that, or things like that worked for a lot of the year. And that's the stuff where it makes Brad Stevens clearly is hoping that we can just run back that magic this year and everything comes back into place and everyone knows their role and we can make it work while keeping Allen's minutes between 20 and 25 per game. But if one of those guys drops off or someone else gets hurt, that's important, then things become a little dicier to manage the schedule wise. But it's they're set up to be able to do it. And now the fact, I mean, how much do you expect within this schedule grind, Jay, of like that they're just going to be not going to, like, we know that Joe Mazzulla took his foot off the gas in terms of chasing the 1 seed, and playing guys into the ground more in the regular season last year. But do they even pull up even more from that this year?
I think you have to.
More competition.
I think you have to. I think you've proven that it probably doesn't matter whether you're at home or on the road. And I don't mean that just the title run. I mean, the last few years, the Celtics have been more than capable of getting playoff wins and big playoff wins on the road. It just doesn't matter. And then after so many of your guys played on the Olympics, after Kristaps Porzingis got surgery, with Al Horford nearly 40 years old, you just have to just slow things down as much as you need to. I think you need to pace Jason Tatum. I think you need to pace Derek White, Drew Holiday. Those guys have played a ton of basketball, just so much basketball. And Tatum, like, he hates sitting. He hates not playing 40 minutes in a game. He hates it. But I think you need to find him nights. I think you need to find nights where you get him 32 minutes. I think you need to find him nights where you just don't play him at all. I think you need to get him on board with that, just because of how much basketball he's played. Or I guess he didn't play that many minutes.
Steve Kerr took care of that, though, for them. Like, listen, I'm looking out for you guys.
Maybe Kerr was just doing Joe Mazzulla a solid. Who knows? But seriously, like, I think with all those factors, the championship hangover of just like, you won the championship, you don't have that motivation anymore. Can you still reach the level you did last season? Can you still be on the same page after winning a championship where nothing else matters other than winning? If the Celtics can get there again, then obviously there is no limit on this team. They can do whatever they want. But you have to get there again. And just because you bring all the same guys back doesn't mean it'll be the same mix. Doesn't mean you'll play exactly the same way. Doesn't mean the same guys will deserve the same shots and same touches. Every year is different.
Hey, do you know what's fun summertime activity? Going down to Fenway and watching the Red Sox play baseball. I did it a couple days ago, and it was a lot of fun, and I got there using Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, and with last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. If you went on Game Time, you could have seen the Boston Celtics celebrate the World Championship with the trophy. Joe Mazzulla looking like a second baseman there. Game Time is the absolute best place to get last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. It's easy to find and buy MLB tickets for any other kind of event in your area. You get to view seats from the venue, and again, that has that lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection. It's got everything you want, including zone deals, all-in pricing, and ticket coverage. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I do wonder, though, how much, we talk about the championship hangover and the grind, and now like throwing the Olympics into play here adds an extra element. But the fact that there really wasn't much adversity at all last year, and the fact they were able to be on cruise control for essentially the last 20 games of the regular season, having walked up the 1 seed, and then with a playoff run with no series going beyond 5 games. I wonder if that just does, they obviously work their ass off to get there, but they aren't coming off of a 105 game grind. Like they probably worked the last 2 years before that, like even the Heat 7 games. Like I bet going to 7 in every series, and back then, you could argue that was probably coming off a tougher season than last year. Now how much does those 5 or 10 games actually matter in the big picture for going to next year? Probably not. Do I expect this team to get gassed at points? Probably, especially given the fact they're starting a week earlier than everyone else with their international preseason games against the Nuggets. But it is like they did set themselves up here of having, maybe the smoother path coming off a title than a team has had in probably since, the 17 Warriors or 18 Warriors.
Another notable game, probably the game that's most notable in a good way. December 7th, Marcus Smart comes back and probably plays against the Celtics in Boston for the first time. I think that could be a really fun night. I think the crowd will give Smart an awesome ovation. I'm looking forward to being in TD Garden for that one.
Nice 8:00 start for that one too on a Saturday night. That'll be
I hate late starts. There's nothing nice about an 8:00 start.
For the fans that want to have an extra drink or two to welcome Marcus back. But yeah, not for us. I do love how much there are a lot of day games for us, Jay, that I'm excited about in this schedule.
I didn't even look at the times.
A lot of 1-3:30s on Sundays. Give me
all of that, B-Rob.
Yeah,
yes.
The dad train here is going to be very excited about the day. There's a lot of ABC 1 and 3:30s. And a bunch of 6s too, which is nice. Always nice to see those mixed in, home and road on here. Should we go month by month? Yeah. So you just took us into November with the Marcus matchup. I think like it's easy to overlook stuff like that. Like it's just to forget that, Marcus hasn't played in the Garden yet. Given like there's so many of those moments that kind of flew under the radar last year in midst of their run now. But so that'll be cool to see that actually come into play, and I wonder, how he'll handle just talking about. I mean, obviously, this team back here after watching them win it.
Yep, that's going to be a big one. Philadelphia on Christmas Day in Boston. Good for the writers; don't have to travel on Christmas Day.
Another win.
That's
no Wednesday night. No Wednesday night Thanksgiving game too, Jay, which is another big one for us.
That's huge. They always have a Wednesday. I didn't even look at that. That's amazing.
So they only know, and that's a fun week actually. They play the Wolves November 24th on Sunday, 3:30 game. Love it. And then they get the Clippers 7:30 on the Monday, and then nothing until Friday after Thanksgiving in Chicago. So nice little break for everyone.
God bless him. One of the best stretches in Boston is March 2nd, Nikola Jokic. Actually, March 2nd, Nikola Jokic. March 8th, Lakers and LeBron James. March 12th, Oklahoma City Thunder. Like that's a powerhouse 2 weeks in Boston.
And the Sixers on the 6th.
And the Sixers on the 6th. So, but the other guys, you only get one chance to see them.
That's a good point. Yeah.
The Sixers, they're playing them all the time. Although this new Sixers team, it'll be fun to see how they mesh. Does Paul George give them a chance to be a legitimate contender for the first time in Joel Embiid's career? We will see. Does Joel Embiid go on a F Steve Kerr tour just like Jason Tatum might? Could be. I don't know. Wembanyama, February 12th. Get your tickets now. He didn't play in Boston last year, right? That would be his first time in Boston playing.
Yeah, he didn't play that game.
That'll be a big one. Gotta get
what
else?
Chris
what
Paul.
else you got here? Yeah, Chris Paul. Jeremy Sohan.
Yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of some interesting, like Jason Tatum only gets to go to Charlotte once, back to back, November 1st and 2nd.
Why do they always do the back to backs with Charlotte? I feel like those
that's
like
just must be a quirk in the
home
schedule.
back to backs. Yeah, I feel like it always happens in Charlotte. Like the last place beat writers want to stay for several days at a time.
Hope we get out of there in 48 hours. I'm really looking forward to, we talk about the Knicks opening night. The Celtics having a chance to go up against Malcolm Brogdon again, October 24th in Washington. That is be a nice road opener to see how
Malcolm, he didn't play against the Celtics at all.
I don't think he played against them
did he?
last year. No, so that's another. They didn't see any of their old guys last year. Rob Williams.
Yeah.
When does Portland come to town?
I don't know.
I think that's probably might be during that same trip. I think in March. Yeah. Wednesday, March 5th, right after Jokic comes to town, Rob Williams maybe have a chance to take the floor at TD Garden. Add another one to that one.
That's a big stretch. Yeah. What a stretch.
But for you, in your mind, which is, if you have to peg what's the toughest road trip of the year right now, out of that, the early January, the late January and the West Coast, and then you have this end of March odyssey, another 6-game road trip through 3 different time zones. I think they had something similar last year, but now this is all against West teams. Like, what do you expect to be, if you had to choose one of those to be the toughest one? What's your
the longer one is always the toughest one to me. The more miles are on your body, the tougher it is. I remember going into last year, was it December or January, when the Celtics just played like game after game after game. There was no rest, and they actually got through it okay. But like the rest of the year, they had like a 12 net rating, and that month they had like an 8 net rating, and it was like very clear that they were not at their best, just kind of slogging through it compared to their normal standards. And it was just kind of like, actually the schedule is brutal. Like, I think when you watch it on TV, it's easy to just think, how can these guys not get up for it? How can they not just be ready to play 48 minutes, even if it's a back-to-back once a day? Like, and then you go through the travel a little bit, and it's like, oh my God. Like, I'm fucking exhausted sitting there watching the 4th game in 6 nights. Like, I can barely, like, I have to set like 7 alarms to wake up in the morning so that I don't miss my flight. And then I'm just crushing like 19 coffees so that I can stay awake for the game at night. And then you realize, like, oh wow, this travel stuff is really, really difficult on bodies. It's really, really difficult mentally. And so I'll go with the longer one. That one's going to be the tougher one. Although the 4-game trip with Timberwolves, Rockets, Thunder, and Nuggets is a pretty tough one, especially if the Rockets take a step forward with some of their young talent.
Yeah, that could be the 3 best teams in the West, and then a Houston team on the rise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on the March. Like, the Celtics will play 1 home game, Jay, in a 3.5-week stretch from the end of March. Like, from March 13th
crazy
to April 1st, they'll play 1 home game in there and 8 road games. So they're gonna be bouncing all over the place, playing in 3 different time zones on that trip. The trip last year, they at least had, they had whatever the 5 random days in Atlanta with 2 games spread out like over 4 days in that stretch. But this time they're just bouncing around the whole way. So that'll be one where ideally they've taken care of business in the standings at that point of the year, because they were trying to win plenty to the end last year, but the pressure wasn't on. They were in firm control for essentially
for like 5 months.
Yeah, for 5 from the All-Star break. They had it locked up. But so hopefully Joe Mazzulla doesn't tear his meniscus again after 2 tough losses on that trip like he did against Atlanta last March.
I also want to see the Bucks game. I want to see whether the Bucks can kind of get it together this season with Doc in place for a full off season, a little bit better at least rotation with a little more athleticism, a little more two-way talent. When you have Giannis, when you have Middleton, when you have Dame, like they never pieced it together last year, but I wouldn't count that team out yet. So I look forward to seeing them. I think that one's in October 28th, I believe.
Fourth game of the year. Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, you see, we got 3 Bucks games, Jay, before December 7th. So they're not going to like Porzingis might not see the Bucks this year, period, in the regular season. We'll see when this. I assume they're going to play him in a 4th game down the line, but if that's on a back-to-back or something like that, which Celtics Bucks games have a tradition of being, that he might not get a sniff of them until the playoffs are. Actually, they might be done. They might only play each other 3 times this year. That's an interesting little wrinkle there. Is there any other team from
Miami,
either conference?
I want to see Miami. Yeah, that's always a competitive game. Those 2 teams, I don't know if dislike is the right word, but there's enough history there that those teams, they both bring it, and they both want to beat each other quite a bit. So I'm into that. Yeah, there's a lot of like pretty interesting teams, at least. There's a lot of pretty uninteresting teams, I guess, as well. And it doesn't help that normally every year, like the teams with the top 3 or 4 picks, you're like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see that team."
Man.
You know, I can't wait to see Victor Wembanyama. Like, it's going to be cool to see Chet Holmgren in person or whatever. Now it's like, I could do without Alex Sarr, and Reza Shea, and all these guys. Like, yes, they just don't think they're going to do it for me.
Yeah, I'll take Reed Shepherd, but I'll be.
Yeah, Reed Shepherd. Give me some Reed Shepherd. Give me all the Reed Shepherd.
I'm a little intrigued to see but no. I'm intrigued to see a little bit like the remade Clippers and Warriors, just from a curiosity perspective of like, are the Clippers just going to be a middling play-in team, or is the supporting cast that they brought in going to be able to do enough? And is Kawhi going to be able to, actually play 60 games for a change? And the Warriors too, like they made a lot of, I don't know if they're good changes. They made a lot of interesting changes after that.
I think the Warriors will be better. I don't know whether they'll be good enough, but I think they should definitely be better, especially if they get steps forward from Podziemski and Kuminga.
Yeah.
Which I think is possible. I like Podziemski a lot, the way he plays. Kuminga, like when he's on, man, he looks good. So, and then I liked some of their additions too.
Yeah. They've
Melton, if he stays healthy, Kyle Anderson should help. Like they got the types of players that they need.
Coming off the bench there will be interesting too.
Yeah.
And then we also have got to circle March 10th. Svi comes back to get his ring at the TD Garden. Hopefully wearing his hat.
Yes,
but that's kind of crazy. That's going to be one. There will be one guy. I mean, I assume O'Shea will sign with someone and be back as well. But that's nuts that there'll only be two of those nights over the course of the year, and they'll just be for Svi and O'Shea Brissett.
Yeah, that is kind of wild. They're just bringing everybody back. Run it back. Run it back. We'll run it back every day, Monday through Friday, every week, because we are the greatest Celtics podcast of all time. Sign it up if you want to subscribe. Patreon.com/stillpoddable. It's the dead of the offseason, but we'll be going all offseason. Training camp is actually just about a month away now. Media day, just about a month away. It is coming. Basketball is coming pretty soon. Jason Tatum will be cussing out Steve Kerr on the Warriors sideline as the Celtics get off to some kind of start. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe it won't be. Maybe they'll have a championship hangover. Maybe they won't. We'll see. We'll be talking about it all. And we love you all, the kids, the gods, and the legends, and everybody at CLNS listening to us too.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. The boss is still Poddable, still Poddable.
Oh, yeah.
Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.